Hi guys, today we're going to analyze source 7. I'm going to try annotating a little bit differently, so give me some feedback either on Remind or write in your Edpuzzle answers which one you like better. I think this one will be just a little bit better to read or easier to read. Okay, source 7 was FBI Director John Edgar Hoover, memo to Attorney General Biddle from February 2nd, 1942. So I highlighted these names and I just want to write in my annotation that both of these people work for the government. So when you're thinking in terms of reliability, how is the fact that both of these people work for the government going to affect whether or not you trust this source? Necessity for mass evacuation is based primarily upon public and political pressure rather than on factual data. So I highlighted this factual data piece. So he's saying that it's not based on the truth, which we have heard differing opinions on in our previous sources. Public hysteria or craziness, and in some instances, the comments of the press and radio announcers have resulted in a tremendous amount of pressure being brought to bear on Governor Olson and Earl Warren, Attorney General of the state, and on the military authorities. It is interesting to observe that little mention has been made of the mass evacuation of enemy aliens. So I highlighted that last sentence. And I want to make an annotation that people are not talking about Japanese American incarceration. I want you to think about, why is that? Why would the government not want to talk about it? This kind of goes back to your answers on a previous Edpuzzle video, or I asked you why, or was a document, why did the government purposely use misleading language? Kind of the same thought process here. It is believed by many that mass evacuation will be a cure-all and will eliminate the danger of Japanese espionage and sabotage. It would, of course, eliminate the possibility of the Japanese physically committing sabotage on the coast. So this author is agreeing that Japanese internment has a pro. So it eliminates the threat on the coast. However, experience has taught that the Japanese often rely on occidentals, which are natives of the West Coast, that I just put over here in an annotation, to obtain physically their information for them. So, although it seems like this author previously gave a pro that it could eliminate the threat on the coast, now he's arguing that Japanese Americans are not usually traitors. It is native-born Americans. And maybe they still have ties to Japan, but they're not recently coming from there. Real cases substantiate this or prove this. If only the Japanese aliens are excluded from restricted areas, the problem of enforcement becomes extremely difficult. I want to pause here. This use of the word aliens, several of you have brought this up as discriminatory or racist, and while I agree the use of language is super important and using a word like alien might be used to make them sound less human, I will say that at the time it was very common language. So I highlighted problem of enforcement becomes extremely difficult. So the author is arguing that internment is hard to enforce. The necessity for challenging every Japanese observed within these areas is obvious. Then there must follow a close interrogation to establish citizenship. There also remains the fact that a large portion of the aliens have immediate or close relatives who are citizens and who would have access to the restricted areas. It is recognized that the second generation Japanese are, as a whole, more inclined to be loyal to this country than their alien elders. They're saying that native-born Japanese Americans are more loyal than Japanese-born Japanese Americans. So if their parents lived in Japan and then came to America, but then had their children in America, yes, they're all still Japanese American, but their children were born here and are therefore a little more loyal to America, probably because they more aligned with American values and culture. Irrespective of this, aliens and citizens being in the same families would tend to nullify effectiveness of the exclusion of aliens and not citizens from restricted areas. The advisability of excluding aliens and not citizens is therefore highly controversial. There are all these factors that he listed above, identifying citizens versus aliens, families that have both people who were born here and people who were born in Japan, people who are citizens and people who are not citizens. All of these factors make internment very sketchy. It's controversial. Can they fully enforce it? Can they enforce it in a legal way? Can they enforce it in a fair way? The author here is not really sure of those answers. Go ahead and answer your 2 questions on Edpuzzle. They are still the same 2 questions you've been answering all week, and I will see you tomorrow.